Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today we're going to continue on our pandemic projects, and we're going to do this one in two parts like we did the one with the Damn Quick 440. I have a 713 Penn Spinfisher that just came in from Bill in Massachusetts. Bill has asked me to replace the drag washers and his spools and to service his 713. 713 is the 712, but it's got the right hand crank, not the left, and this one's in beautiful condition, and he tells me that just needs some basic oil and lube. You can kind of hear it in there, and we're going to do that as the second part of the video. But the first part of the video that we're going to do is to show you how to replace the spools in on that model and on most green models. The spool's dated 478. Interesting. The spool service is just as important as the reel service, particularly if you're losing drag strength and feeling a lot of slip, or if you're losing the sensitivity within the drag itself. In other words, one of the common faults of this particular reel is that these drags tend to wed themselves to the metal washers, and when that happens, you don't have any kind of slip whatsoever. So Penn kind of has helped us along with that. One of the things that Penn kind of suggests as you switch over to from a leather drag to an HT100 drag is to put some reel grease, or to use a specific drag washer grease to keep those washers flexible, stop them from drying out, and stop them from adhering to the metal washers that go between them. So when Bill had alerted me that he wanted to have these done, I went out to mysticparts.com. It's a regional Penn parts distributor, and I ordered the drag sets for a spool. And quite honestly, one of the first drag sets that I ever replaced in a reel happened to be with the Penn Spinfisher series. I was able to buy a reel at a flea market relatively inexpensively. I think at the time it might have been the $5.50, and the fellow was telling me how it performed poorly, and what happened was the drag stack was totally loaded and frozen. Now, how does that happen? Well, on the top end drag reels, you have a drag adjuster knob. Some of them are large, some of them are smaller, some of those have all kinds of cute little buttons on them, like this one on the Shakespeare and that. The truth of the matter is those are not watertight, and those take the brunt of anything that you're fishing in. So as you're reeling the line coming down in, that line is wet, the splash hits the top rim of the spool, that water works its way down into the drag washers, and if you're fishing salt water, that water's bringing in the micro sands, it's bringing in the salt, and it's bringing in other things that just over time clog those washers, and they need to be serviced. So let's show you how to do that then. The drag washer components of the kit, you have 3 HT100 washers. Now, I don't know in here if I have HT100s or if I have the old leather washers. Doesn't matter, Bill asked me to replace them either way. We have 2 round washers that are kind of rectangular almost. They're 2 flat sides with curved opposing sides. That fits the shaft of this reel. So let's just take a spool off just to show you. If I take the spool off, you'll see that marries to the shaft, just like that. So when you're locking down a drag washer, the tension on this metal washer is going to hold the shaft. Then you have one in the middle. The middle washer is hectagonal. That floats freely on the shaft. You'll see that spins, but what that does is that locks down the spool. You'll have 6 points as we take these out in just a moment or two. You have 6 points in here, and those points correspond to this. So that washer is going to lock the spool. So as you put tension onto the drag washers, you're locking the shaft and you're locking the spool with different washers, and that's how you get the tension that you get. Okay, the sequence is important then, because the sequence is going to enable you to make that effective. So you have 2 washers that are metal. You have 1 washer that is hectagonal. That hectagonal one, sometimes called an ear washer, because on other setups, instead of having a hectagonal, you have 2 points coming out of that. Those washers always go in the middle. So you have 2 to lock the shaft on the outside, 1 that goes in the middle. They're separated by the fabric washers. The fabric washers start at the bottom of the spool, have a metal key washer, have another fabric, have the hectagonal or eared washer, have another fabric, finish with a metal, and then they're all held in place by a retaining clip. So let's take this off and show you. The only difference on this replacement set and the originals is that the original has 3 studs that come out of them, little dimples, and those kind of tell you when you're tightening down. You'll see that on here they have a series of clips or indentations here that go around this, and that makes a nut. That makes a little click when you go to tighten this drag adjuster down. So these appear to be in good shape. I think what I'm going to do as I reinstall this is eliminate one of the replacement washers and put this back to maintain that function. So let's show you how we do that then. So what you want is you want a pick, you want a small bladed screwdriver, you want a toothpick, you want a little nail. You need something to get this holding ring out of the spool. And you want to look where the separation point is in that holding ring to locate that in order to take it out. So we're going to look, and that separation point is right here. So you want to grab that ring in one of these first 2 indentations that is nearest that. You want to hold your finger down on the spool so that that spring doesn't shoot when you take it out, and you just want to work it out just like that. So you'll see we got it started, and then it can come out just like that. Once you do that, then take the drag stack out, and these have the old leather washers in them, so it's a good thing. Even though these are beautiful spools, these are old, and this bottom one has done exactly what we said happens here. Those washers dry out, kind of weld themselves through the spool. So we got to just kind of work on getting that out for a moment. There we go. And you can see these become brittle over time. This one's a hard, but regardless, these have become less effective. So we're going to replace that. As I mentioned, we're going to take that top washer because of those insets, and we're going to reuse that. In order to reuse that, we want to make sure it's clean. We're going to take a piece of steel wool, and we're just going to get off any debris that might be on the back of that. And what we will do is we will return that original stack to Bill, just in case he ever needs an emergency washer somewhere, or if he has somebody that's interested in restoring a spool with original components. Just be aware that that last top washer is not original. Okay, so we're going to put those back into the parts envelope that they came in. And then we're going to do a couple of things. The first thing we're going to do, because we just had to pry that other one out of there, is we want to make sure that that cavity is clean. I'm going to use a cotton swab just to get any kind of dirt that's in that channel out of that channel. There we go. And then I'm going to use Cal's Universal Dry Grease. I think Cal's is now a part of the Okuma Corporation. Doesn't matter. The dry grease was, it doesn't have the label on it either, it's worn off, but the dry grease is the purpose of that is to keep these flexible, and as I mentioned, so try to stop them from adhering to the metal washer. So I usually just use a little bit of a dip into the grease, and then I used my gloved hand as a tool to spread that grease around on both sides, just like that. And then I want to take a paper towel, if there is excess on there, take a towel and then just kind of wipe off the excess. The grease doesn't have any function other than to keep this flexible. And then washer number 1 then goes into the channel. That's followed by the keyed washer, the one with the 2 flat sides. It's going to hold down that main shaft. I'm going to do that again. Put the dry grease, get it on the one side, turn it over, make sure it gets on the other side, wipe off any excess. The reason you wipe the excess off is it's going to get squeezed, right? When you put the tension of this drag adjuster on there, it's squeezing it down, and all it's going to do, any excess is just going to flow out and just clog the channels. Now we got the middle hex. There we go. Then the last of the drag washers, so we'll do it again. Flip it over, get the other side done, wipe the excess off. That goes in, and then I'm going to use the original again because it has those little dimples on it that it's going to give you that click sound. If that was rusted, corroded, pitted, whatever the terms might be because of the water hitting that, then I would certainly use the one that came in a replacement case. Forget about the dimples. But because this one is in good condition, you might as well leave that function there. New clip ring. I'm going to start kind of the opposite way that we just did. We're going to get that into the track, and then we're going to bring it around so that it seats. Still keeping my finger on it because I want to make sure that we're in that track. So I'm just going to kind of push it down to make sure that it locks in. Okay, we're locked in the channel, so this drag assembly is done. I just noticed there was a little bit of dirt on this, so I'll just kind of clean that up as well. So that's one down. He gave me 2 of them, so we'll be doing 2. We won't be doing 2 for this video, but what we will be doing is giving a shout out and a thank you to all of the first responders that are helping us through this pandemic. Without your efforts, things would be way worse. Not to say that they aren't bad already. Remember, please listen to the authorities out there. Stay safe. Keep your distances. Stay indoors. Self-quarantining as possible. When folks are telling you to avoid certain situations, please do that. The first responders are doing everything they can. They deserve a great sense of appreciation and a thank you. And if you know somebody, please let them know how much their efforts are appreciated. So stay tuned. I'm going to do the rebuild of the 713 as a separate video, but I just wanted to focus first and foremost on getting the drag washers replaced and showing you how to do that on a spool for one of these. Regardless of what Greenie you have, that assembly is essentially the same assembly that you'll be working on. So with that, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.